All right. Hello, everyone. This is Spot of Nerd with your Sunday night podcast. We will be talking politics at first, but we then are going to finish it up with a little bit more positive. So let's just kind of get the crap out of the way. The midterm elections and what is currently going on in this country. So many things. And my stalling is always because I have to be careful of what I say, and that is what is so wrong about the world we live in right now is the fact that supposedly the very first thing that we ever wrote in our Constitution is that we have freedom of speech, but yet we have to be so goddamn careful because it will either harm us in ways that we just simply don't know. And it just sucks so much ass because at this point, I mean, let's look at it from a metaphorical standpoint. I mean, all jokes aside, I saw this great meme if you follow me on Instagram, and it is true. I mean, you look it up, it's true. I remember when I used to watch it. But American Idol can literally count millions of votes in a matter of an hour. Yet this country cannot count its several 100,000 votes in a week. You look at, what was the other one? Gosh, there was another one that was pretty spot on. Oh, it'll come to me later. But again, think of things where counting and voting is involved. And then think of the midterms that are currently happening right now in this country. And it's embarrassing, it's pathetic, it is laughable. And yes, I'm going to be one of those people where if you actually think for a second that this is I'm going to just use the word correct election, because that way, if anything, it'll be misconstrued, I think is a word. Because you know exactly what I mean by the fact that this is how you get a one-party system. This is how you get a one-party government. Because the bottom line is, there is you don't go back from this unless you reform, unless you do a complete overhaul of what is occurring in your own elections. The most corrupt governments in the world do this type of behavior because that is how they turn into corruption and tyranny, by performing the acts of which that are occurring right now. Now, you'll notice I'm not mentioning specifics. I'm not even mentioning the elections. I'm just simply stating the facts of what is occurring. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't currently good things occurring. I've used that word a lot because there actually are. If you look at the fact that many state governors are actually, in fact, now going to be Republicans, and that is a good thing. You look at a lot of these school boards around the country, a lot of them have kicked out a lot of the board members that allow certain things that I would never even think of when I used to go back in elementary school or even just general public high school. And those things can include pornographic images or lessons, so on and so forth. And that's a rabbit hole we can go down another time. But the bottom line is, there are actually some good things that are happening as well, amongst the bigger picture items that we're currently witnessing uh, in the news and so on and so forth. But again, I just want to make it very clear, I'm not pointing out that there are fallacies occurring, but I'm also not going to sugarcoat the fact that I don't buy it. I really do not buy it because you cannot convince me the way in which things are and the way in which things have been over the last 2 years that people continue to want it. If you do, you need, frankly, you need to wake up and you need to wake up fast. If you're simply, let's hypothetically say that everything that's occurring right now is in fact true, then that tells us another horrific thing. And what that horrific thing is that now people are simply voting based off of emotion instead of critical thinking, I guess is a way to phrase it. And what I mean by that is, again, you can hate Trump. You can hate whatever you want to hate. That is the most amazing thing about this country. You can hate what you want. But what it comes down to is if you have been so brainwashed by the most evil thing on this planet, which I designate as the media, that you simply would destroy your own life just so that the other person doesn't get a chance to make those rules or changes needed to better your own future because of the way they vote or the way they are Republican, Democrat, conservative, middle, blah, 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 blah. Shame on you then. You know, if you're voting for somebody because it just means that if you vote one way, then the other guy doesn't get his way, you, I can't even comprehend the level of not good that is. And again, my stalling is because there's so many things I would love to say that would just destroy the narrative and everything in between that's occurring right now. But I will simply just say, like I said many times, you know me, straight up, I should change. It should be, instead of Time for Chinwag, it should be Spot of Nerds Broken Record. I I am not saying that what is occurring right now is fraudulent, but I am also not going to say that what is happening right now is legitimate. And that is simply my viewpoint. I obviously wish no ill will towards anybody or anything, but you will not sell me on what is occurring currently in the government aspect of this country. And, you know, we'll just leave it at that, shall we say. But again, optimistically, this is where the validity comes in. And this is where I do see a lot of the truth coming out in these elections, and I don't see the fraudulentness. I see the true results is you look at DeSantis, you look at again some of these other races where we've actually were able to flip Democrat seats. Those were actual victories, and I definitely believe that the reasons for those flips or the reasons for those complete and absolute victories was frankly laws. I mean, you look at Florida right now, you have to have an ID to vote. You have to have, you have to be a citizen. You have to validate that you're still alive. And it's amazing that when you have those laws in place, you have free and fair elections. It's an amazing concept. Let's just say I was having a conversation with a person that let's just say allegedly I work with, relating to the ID aspect of voting. And we can just say voting in many forms, not just elections, but you know, some some people believe that having an ID is racist and it's bigoted and blah blah blah, and some people can't get an ID and da 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 da. Da. And I simply took our own job. I took the job that we both work at, and I simply said, when somebody either even maybe purchases something, or if we take a phone or we take an electronic device, say a computer, maybe, I don't know, just example, and we do what we need to do, and then we provide that machine or piece of technology back to that person, what do we do? Oh, that's right. We verify that that person is that person, because we don't want to give a $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, $10,000 machine to somebody that's not that person. It would break privacies, it would break securities, it would break the law. Not to mention, it would be very, very bad in terms of just overall company, etc., so on and so forth. So you got to get my meaning on that. And that's just, again, one example of many. I mean, my God, you need an ID to drive. You need an ID to fly. You need an ID to drink. You need an ID to smoke. You need an ID to buy a gun. You need an ID to vote, or you should anyway. You need an ID to buy a home, to buy a car, to I mean, so many examples, but you know where I'm going with that. It's just the good side of all of this is the victories that we have had, and there were many. So that's where my optimism comes in. There were many victories. Those victories occurred in places where laws exist. And I thank them, and I hope others follow suit. My last thought on this, it's going to be a very, very, very hard uphill battle going into the future to make sure that that happens. And positively, I do think it can happen. Negatively, I think there is enough damage that I don't know if it is possible to, quote, flip certain aspects or areas of this country. And, we will just have to succeed elsewhere in that respect. So I guess where I'm going with that again is just this really sucks about for what's going on right now with the midterms. I am not stating that I do believe they have been fraudulent, but I am also, again, broken record. I do not believe what that is. I do not believe what is happening currently with these midterm elections is necessarily what the reality of it is. Allegedly. You know what I mean by all this. If you don't, then you might just want to try to wake up a little more. But again, I'm hopeful things will make sense in the coming weeks, days, months, years, so on and so forth. But going back to what I've even said many episodes before, podcasts, even on my, when I continue to video my episodes, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. I'm going to be respectful. There is no doubt about it. But I'm also not going to be quiet and sit back and tell you that everything is peaches and creams when not 2 years ago it would cost me maybe $45, $50 to fill up my car. It now is double, if not triple that. No. There are reasons why it's now triple, double, triple. There's reasons why it's now double, triple just to buy groceries. There's a reason now why everything is going up. There's a reason why crime is going up. There's a reason why bad things are happening. And if you are simply voting because you would rather have the bad, the crime, the open borders, etc., so on and so forth, because you might get your feelings hurt, you really need to sit down and reevaluate your life and see what is more important. Because that is what's going to lead me to the positive side of things. And we're going to finish this episode up on a positive note because it leads into the family and the support and the friends that you need to hold on to more now than ever, because I am a firm believer. I am a conspiracy theorist. I don't even hide it, because again, that's what the world thinks I am and assumes I am, but you know what? Let's just go with it because everybody else thinks that. They think I'm a negative Nancy, but I classify myself as a realist. So the bottom line is the way society and the world is right now is to destroy the family structure. It's to destroy the home. It's to destroy your support system, to divide you so that you are dependent on a government system, and that way you can be controlled. That's why they want you to have, you know, a digital credit system. That's why everything needs to be electric, is because that way they have control. And I'm here to tell you that there was actually a really great interaction I had with a certain, we'll just say, a customer that I work with at my job. And it was really a breath of fresh air. She was an older gal. Again, you don't need to know details of who these people are, but just an older gal. You know, unfortunately, she had mentioned she'd lost her husband recently, just old age. And she was with her daughter. Uh, her daughter, I think she's about maybe 35, 40 years old. You know, just a regular customer that I'm helping out. And we got into the conversation of how grateful she felt having her family by her side through these hard times. And not only just in life, but, you know, the passing of her husband, so on and so forth. And, you know, learning about this person, you know, the family they've created and the grandchildren that are now in the world, etc. We actually kind of had that kumbaya moment where we both were on the same page of, you know, we used to have those values as a society, as human beings, that, you know, you have a mother and a father, and you maybe have a brother or sister, and you can rely on those people. You also had those friendships that were, you know, even if you may have differed on something, opinions, ideas, whatever it might be, you still could call that person up at 3 in the morning and ask for a liver transplant, and that person wouldn't even blink twice. And, you know, we connected for a good probably 20, 25 minutes because, you know, we just had so much in common about, you know, I've mentioned before on this channel, I do actually really respect and appreciate our veterans. So the way I do that is I wear hats that have, I don't know, let's just say an American flag on it. And that for me is hopefully giving the world like, hey, you know what? Those veterans, there are people like me who we support you, we respect you, and we wish you the best because thank you for doing what you do. So it's just really sad that we in today's society find sometimes people find that to be offensive. And I've mentioned this before, but no, it's not offensive. You know, you have your right to be offended by it, but I will plainly say that you are wrong because, you know, there's a reason why you have the freedom to be offended by such a thing. And that is because somebody has fought for that right. You know, you look at, um, I mean, not to go down a very dark or positive rabbit hole, depending on how you look at it. You look at the Roe v. Wade thing. I'm obviously a very pro-life person. I understand certain situations arise that may have to entangle that, I guess, issue, depending on where you lie or what situation you're in. But the bottom line is that to me was a victory because it gave you more rights. It gave you more options so that when such things as these midterm elections occur, believe it or not, you now actually have a better voice at changing things than you did before when it was up to the government. Now it's up to the states, which gives you more control over your local state senators and or governors. It's really not hard to understand, and some people sometimes get in my face about how, like, why do you post so much about politics? Why do you engulf it in your life? And I said, I don't engulf it in my life. I simply pay attention and I simply observe. You know, it's not really that hard to follow, and it's not something that you need to go, you know, would I classify myself as a radical or one of those crazy right-wing people? No, not at all. I simply just stay attuned to what is happening around us. Because my last thought on that, and I'll get back to the happy stuff, is, for the next 2 years, the past 2 years and the next 2 years, so that'll be 4 years, I don't want to hear complaining. I do not want to hear you complain. I do not want to hear you moan and groan about high prices this. I don't want to hear you moan about crime. I don't want to hear you moan about XYZ when you're the ones putting this in office. You're the ones that wanted this. Now you need to own it. It's no different than screwing up on a test and saying, oh man, maybe I should have studied. Yeah, maybe you should have, because then you'd have gotten a better grade. It really is that simple. And that's what I had this connection, with this customer at my job. And we finished the conversation because, again, her daughter was there and she was chiming in. And, you know, let's flip a little bit to the love and the romance side of things. And I could tell on her device she had a wallpaper of her daughter that was there and the daughter's husband, and it was their wedding day photos. And I said, "Oh my God, is that you guys?" And she said, "Yes, that's me." I said, "That's a really great photo." It was just, it was a really just a cute wedding day photo, her and her husband. And I just, then it was kind of, I was talking to her daughter a little bit more. I said, me kind of being serious, funny, the way I talk to people, joking but serious and real. I said, don't you ever, ever, ever lose that love you have, because she had mentioned she'd been with them for a while and they finally got married and they're having kids and blah blah blah. But what it came down to was, I was telling her, I'm like, don't don't ever lose that. The woman originally that I was talking to, she'd been married for 50 plus years. Her daughter had only been married for about 5 or 6. And I just, we were just kind of talking about, again, how with today's society, love and marriage is nothing more than tossing out the trash. People now see marriage as simply another swipe right or another swipe left. And it's really tragic. But again, the positive, the optimistic side is that there is still love and marriage, that the traditional marriage still exists. When I hear about these customers that I talk with that have been married for 50 years that are holding strong because they're passing those values to their children and their grandchildren and their great grandchildren. And it's proof in the pudding when I get to meet people like this, is because it does still exist, and it gives me hope that not all hope is lost. There is a way that we can all do this and all end up better from everything in our life: love, family, friends, support, food, gas, money, blah, 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 blah. The biggest thing that we all have is the ability to communicate with each other. And I think, just kind of wrapping my thought process with this, what we're talking about right now, God, this is now the time more than ever where we have seriously got to start talking to each other, because we are gonna bury ourselves, and there's gonna come a day, the way we're going right now. This is negative, but I promise it's optimistic in a way. We're going to end up to a point sometime in the near future, or who knows, where we're going to look back and go, we had a chance to change it and we didn't, because we were too focused on our emotions. We were too focused on the reaction instead of the actual thought and critical side of the process that was occurring, or issue that was occurring. So if you have any idea what I'm talking about, great. If you don't, trust me, it's just who I am. I do sincerely appreciate you all listening. For my supporters, again, thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I love you all to death for listening and keeping up, following. If you don't like it, cool, that's great. Keep listening. Really do appreciate it. And again, I know I go off on a million different tangents. I go down a million different roads and I start down different paths and I come back and I go forward and I come back. But at the end of the day, if I can just hopefully get my side of things out and not feel alone, because I've mentioned this before, this last year has been the greatest awakening for me, and getting to meet these people sometimes that I do at work or in public or wherever. You know, I've even said I've met some really cool people through the comments on my YouTube channel, just people that admire the work or the reviews that I do because they're telling me like, "Hey, thank you for speaking the truth." One of them was actually the Wakanda Forever. I've had a few people actually DM me, saying, "Hey, thank you for actually being real and just telling the world that, yeah, you know what? This movie did suck. You know, the representation, as Nerdrotic would say, was everywhere, and that's all they focused on. And that ultimately is, you know, one of the reasons why it's one of its downfalls is because you don't focus on the story, you focus too much on the agendas and the politics. That is why these movies don't do so well anymore, is because you used to actually write good stories. We don't give a fuck if it's black, white, red, purple, pink, woman, female, male, blah, 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 blah. Just give us good story writing and we'll continue to go watch your films and we'll buy your shit. It's really not hard. It's not rocket science. But if you want to go down that path of wokeness, go for it. Don't come to us complaining when you're running out of money and you have to lay off thousands of people. It's just how the game works. It's how the world works. It's not rocket science. So anyway, my whole point on that again is just the fact of I am me. I am grateful for who I am and the values that I do possess. This last year has been the greatest awakening of my entire life in the best possible way. It's only going to hopefully get better from here on out. There's going to be side falls, there's going to be hiccups, there's going to be falls and failures and everything in between. But ultimately, I need to be the one to either succeed or to fail. And it's just, I hate myself that it took me so long to figure this out, but I finally did. And it is very lonely. It is extremely lonely. But it's also, that loneliness isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sure, I would love to be like this family I talked with. I would love to find my partner, and I would love to be with that person for 50 odd years, 60 odd years until the day I die. But I also need to make sure I'm priority, and I need to make sure that I'm the one that's giving the best that I can be, and I also want to make sure I receive what I deserve. That goes anywhere, friends, family, relationships. I look back and I just think, holy shit, the amount of energy and time I wasted. And yes, I'm not saying all of them was bad. There were definitely great moments with people, friends, family, relationships, but I would be in such a better place right now if it wasn't for the decisions I've made in the past. And I think that is the best piece I can give you. The optimistic side is you don't have to figure it out all you don't have to figure it all out when you're 18 or you're 25 or you're 30. I was 35 plus years before I figured it out, and there's still time, I think. Who knows? Maybe I get hit by a car tomorrow. Who knows? We'll figure it out. So I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you all so much, sincerely again, for listening and watching if you are on YouTube. Until next time, folks, we will see you all later. Please do not forget the usuals, the shares, the comments, the likes, the follows, the subscribing. It's mucho apreciado. And we will see you guys next time. Later, y'all. Bye bye.